Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the brand new world of Copperdale, which is the latest world that we got from the latest expansion pack which came out last week, the Sims 4 high school years, and I'm going to be building a big Copperdale family home. So the new expansion pack has been out a little over a week now. What's everyone's thoughts about it? What's everyone's feelings about it? If I'm being completely honest, I have done absolutely no gameplay so far again. I said in my last video because last week I built a huge high school for the brand new world, but I said in that video I hadn't done any gameplay. I'd just purely been building and playtesting, and it's pretty much the same case for this week. I still haven't done any gameplay because, in all fairness, there is a current really bad bug in The Sims 4 at the minute, where basically if you play with a sim that's either on the short or the long lifespan, they will just age up with no warning, and I get too attached to my Sims. I can't be doing that, and so I've been leaving it off until that bug is just, until we've got a fix for it. So in terms of gameplay, I'm still yet to play the game myself and actually experience the high school life for my teenagers. But this week, I just wanted to sit down and build in the new world again. Now, it's always so exciting when we get a brand new world, but this kind of landscape, this kind of idea of a little bit more of a suburban world is completely up my street, and so I just basically just wanted to sit down and build something with the new pack, just try and make as much use of it as I can possible, and that's basically what I did, so I hope you like it. So the house ends up having 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. I decorated the bedrooms to be one for like a set parent or like a singular parent. There is also a spare bedroom, there is 2 teenagers rooms, and then 1 child's room as well. And if I'm being honest, the child's room was just equally as fun to decorate for a teenager, because the thing is, and I know it's going to sound really weird, even though I've already built a high school, I've literally built a 64 by 64 in this world already with this new expansion pack, I feel like I was yet to experience this expansion pack fully in terms of build and buy, because obviously it's based on teenagers. A massive part of being a teenager is decorating your room in a certain way and having certain different hobbies and skills within your bedroom, and just decorating it to be suited for that one sim of that type of one personality and one type of different interests and likes. And so in terms of the build and buy, even though I built a school, I feel like I was yet to actually properly experience a good old classic suburban family home that has some teenagers' bedrooms that are kind of more so decorated towards their personalities. But I decorated the child's room to be, it was just equally as fun as a teenager's bedroom. I kind of took a personality type that you could have as a teenager and made it into the child's room and kind of decorate with all the new expansion pack objects in there. Which the personality that I'm talking about is a little bit of a streamer, which I don't even think kids Sims can do currently in The Sims 4. I don't know, like I said, I've done absolutely no gameplay so far with this new expansion pack. But right, have you ever seen Drake and Josh? I feel like a lot of people have seen Drake and Josh. You know Megan. Basically, I decorated the room in kind of inspired by Megan from Drake and Josh. A bit of a naughty teenager, or like a naughty child, probably going to end up being a really naughty teenager. But they're really into programming, they're really into hacking into the school grades and all that kind of stuff. And so I basically decorated a child's room to be a bit of a hacker, a bit of a streamer. And then one of the actual teenagers' bedrooms I decorated to be kind of like a head cheerleader. I was thinking all round kind of nice, well-rounded sim, gets good grades, kind of like the glue of his household. And then there is also one last teenager's bedroom, which I decorated to be a bit of a stereotypical kind of jock's room. I mean, we've all seen the films where you've got a head football captain or head basketball captain, and they're really into their sports and they're trying to do really well within school because they need to go to university. Maybe they need to go to University of Rochester or something. I feel like we've all seen them films where you've got a stereotypical teenager just really into sports, and they're trying to get good grades, not because they actually want the grades itself in the subject, but more so because they want to have good grades to get into a good sporting university. I basically decorated another teenager's room to be kind of the head of the football team, so there's lots of different sporting posters in there. It's also quite a lot of the the flag, or kind of the symbol for the school, the llama. I purposely chose their bed to have that kind of bedspread because I feel like they're really about school pride, and just they're really active within their schools, after school curriculums. They are probably the head of the football team or the basketball team or whatever, but that was just kind of how I decorated the rooms, which was so much fun because before you could always have this idea in your head oh, I'm going to decorate this room and it's going to be for a head cheerleader, and they're going to go into cheerleading practice, and you can say all this and you can imagine it, but now you can actually physically do it in the game, which I'm so excited for me to actually sit down and be able to actually play the game once the bugs are actually fixed. Saying this, currently when I'm doing this voiceover, which by the way, if you're not familiar with my channel, then you might not know this, but if you are familiar with my channel, you probably have heard me say this a few times. I always do my voiceover on the day, just in case we have any, any news, any kind of expansion pack teasers, or we've just had one, so we're probably not going to get one for a while, but any new kit or game pack or stuff pack or any type of news, I always like to save my voiceovers for the day, because then when I post it, if there is something, we can talk about it. But currently, as I'm doing this voiceover, I think there might be a fix for this new like agent issue. I did see, because I've got my notifications turned on for the Sim, or like the Sims Twitter, I did see they tweeted something about it, so I think there might be a fix coming, or there might be a fix. Either way, I'm going to try and play this weekend and just try and experience the full, you know, I built a high school, I haven't even played with it yet, so if you play with it, let me know how it's going, and let me know if you're enjoying it or not, because I really want to play with this high school that I built. But currently I'm too scared to open my game right now. But yeah, overall that was just kind of like the dynamic for this family in terms of the children and like the teenagers of the household. So, you know, we've got one cheerleader, we've got one Sim that's really into sports and like after school curriculum activities to do with sports, and then we've also got a child Sim that is really naughty. Really just, they just always hack into the school grades. Do you know, one thing I was thinking of as well when I was building this is I feel like at one point the teenage Sim that's really into like sports and probably like the head of the captain of like the basketball team or whatever, however you want to say it, I imagine they probably slip their younger sibling like 5-10 simoleons every so often, just so then they can hack into the school grades for them and then change their grades, because I imagine that they probably do want to go to University of like Bridechester for some type of like sport, but their grades in terms of like maths and English and science and, you know, like all of the core subjects, probably really lacking, probably doing really well in sports, but in terms of the stuff like, you know, like the basics, English, maths, science, ICT, they're probably doing really badly, and they probably often skip school as well. I also imagine them to be really naughty, by the way, because we've got this new window in the expansion pack, which basically your Sims can open it up and pretty much climb out this new window. You would have noticed at the back of the house, I basically created this kind of like upper deck area. I didn't want to make it seem like it was somewhere where your Sims can climb out of, so I placed down some like live edit fences to kind of make it look like it was a bit of a roof for the downstairs like lower porch and the back garden. But your Sims can basically climb out this new window now. But I was imagining that this jock Sim, really naughty, often just like skips out of their bedroom, goes to maybe like the thrift tea and boba shop or whatever it's called with their friends on the weekend. They're probably often grounded, and so they're quite naughty. But I imagine that they do slip their younger sibling a few simoleons here and there just to change their grades for them. I also was imagining that this younger sibling is really intimidating, and like the whole family, even the parents or like the parent, is really like just scared of them, because I imagine that they're kind of like this creative genius and they're just so smart, and before, if anyone's got a problem, if anyone's kind of got like a general knowledge question, they can just answer it within a matter of seconds because they're just so filled with knowledge. I also imagine, by the way, this household was kind of like a single parent household. I was more so thinking like a single dad. I was thinking that the single dad is probably in someone kind of like sporting management or has something to do with like TV management for sports or something in this house, and so they do have like a little separate home office downstairs. But overall, that was just kind of like the idea that I had for this family, which I'm still unsure, and let me know what you think. I'm still unsure whether I should include this house into my save file or not, because basically where I built this, it's built on a 30 by 30 lot, which surprisingly, in the new world of Copperdale, this is the biggest size residential lot that we currently have. I mean, I say currently, I don't think they're ever going to update it. It's going to remain to be 30 by 30, but in terms of lot sizes for residentials, a 30 by 30, surprisingly, is the biggest lot size that we have in this world, because we have, I think, two 20 by 15s, we also have one 20 by 30, which off memory, I think is a rental, and then we also have some 30 by 30 lots. So I really wanted to build like a really big, you know, a really big kind of like classic, almost American suburban house for this kind of like family with this kind of dynamic. But I didn't really know where to build it, because the other 30 by 30 is kind of like in a woody area. It's not really got a driveway, and I really wanted to have like a driveway with I feel like it's quite stereotypical to have like a garage, have a car in front, have like a basketball hoop. I really wanted that kind of look for this house. But the thing is, when you originally go into a brand new save file, the head teacher and her daughters, and I think her dad as well, live in this house originally. So if you look in the top left corner, I think it's called Golden Peak off memory. This is basically where they live. Obviously, for this house, I've created a bit of a different dynamic in terms of how I've decorated the rooms and who the rooms are going to be for and their types of personalities and whatnot. So if I was going to include this house in my save file, the principal wouldn't live here. So it's just kind of like a question of where will the principal live, because of course I've got to include the principal somewhere in my save file. I love this house so much and I really do want to include it, but I don't know what you're going to think in terms of, is it weird that I've moved the principal out of this lot and I've moved them elsewhere, or do you not mind that? I don't know, let me know. But that was just kind of like the overall storyline that I have for this family. You know, like a single dad. They've probably got their hands full because they've got 3 children. 2 of them are teenagers. One of them is a really naughty teenager. And then they've just kind of got this really rebellious, really kind of like almost scary and very intimidating child as well. And that was just kind of like the overall for this family. Now, of course, there is an extra bedroom as well, which I just decided to make into a spare bedroom. If you wanted to, you could probably have like some grandparents living there, or maybe you could change it to be an extra teens bedroom. If you wanted to have the storyline of maybe having a teenager that's really into like punk rock music, and maybe you can pretend that they're in a band, because still, unfortunately, that is not a thing that we can do in The Sims 4 yet, but you could probably do that with that bedroom. You know, you can change this house in any way, shape or form that you want to once you download it off the gallery. But yeah, that was just kind of like the general overview for this house. But getting on and actually talking about this house, because I've just been rambling so much about kind of like the storyline for this household, kind of just like the expansion pack in general. It's just so exciting. It's one of, honestly, my favourite time of the year. I said it last week, it feels like Christmas to me, because when we get a new expansion pack, the game just, it feels so much more elevated in terms of there is so many new things to discover, there's so many new things to talk about, and it's really exciting. But getting on and talking about what I'm doing right now, so I failed to mention up until this point, this house has a tree house, which, I mean, you can see that I'm building it right now. Maybe it's just me, but you know what I was saying? I wanted it to be kind of like stereotypical American suburban house with the garage and the basketball hoop above the garage. And I wanted it to feel, from the exterior especially, a very typical suburban house. I feel like a tree house kind of fits into that quite well. And so I decided to make a tree house in the back garden. Now, unfortunately, the slide that, well, I say a slide, the roof piece that I've made look like a slide does not work. It is purely just a roof piece for decoration. Unfortunately, we don't have tree houses in the game, so you have to make them. And some tree houses do have slides, but we don't really have... We have a slide for toddlers in the game, which I'm pretty sure came with either a base game update or the toddler stuff pack, but they're like a little small object for toddlers. And so I just basically got this roof piece and bended it in a certain way to make it look like it's a slide. But in terms of the actual tree house itself, it's fully functional. Your Sims can climb up there, your Sims can watch TV, they can also play on like the science table. I am really gutted, if I'm being honest with you, that we didn't get a tree house within this new expansion pack, because the way that I think The Sims 4 are kind of like approaching generations in this game is, instead of The Sims 3 where we had generations and we just kind of had all of this stuff put into one pack, but it wasn't as focused. So we had prom and we had obviously graduation and stuff, but you couldn't actively go to it, whereas in The Sims 4 you can actively go to it. The way that The Sims 4 are kind of like giving us elements of gameplay in life stages, instead of just giving us one massive one and then not really focusing in on it, they're just kind of like individually focusing on one kind of aspect of the game and then kind of like making a DLC off that. I was really hoping that with the high school years expansion pack we would get a treehouse, because I don't know how else we would get one now in the game, unless we're going to get a kids focus expansion pack, which feels very much like a long shot. I don't think that's going to happen, because what else could we give for kids? I mean, we always say that there's not really much for kids to do in the game, but now I'm actually sitting down and thinking about it. What can you actually do for a kid? I ain't got a clue. And so I was kind of hoping that if we was to ever get a treehouse, it would be in like a teen focused expansion pack, like high school years, but unfortunately we didn't get that, and so you kind of still have to make your own. But the way that I made it is I basically just got this live edit tree, I sized it up, and then I just basically built a room in the shape of what I think could be classed as a tree house into the tree, and then that's basically how I did it. Now, I use a live edit tree because you can see that I've now zoomed in. I'm actually now going in and furnishing the inside of this tree house, but when you zoom in into gameplay, I would rather you be able to not see the tree branches and, you know, see all the different things coming through the floor, because to me that's quite distracting. You might as well just have like a massive wall or massive like platform in the middle of the room, because it's just, you have to move your camera a little bit more, and I just prefer to use live edit trees, because that way when you zoom in, it's completely just, you can't see anything on the like on the inside, but on the outside it looks authentic to a tree house, if that makes sense. I have built a few tree houses before. I think it's like my 4th house that I've built now on the channel that has included a tree house. Every single time I just use a live edit tree. Normally I use this one which is from base game and it's absolutely massive, but with this expansion pack we've got a tree which actually worked out quite nicely once I sized it up just by one time, and that way there was kind of like a branch which can kind of wrap around the wall on the exterior, and it kind of looks a little bit more like a well balanced tree house in terms of it looks like it is proportionally right and proportionally correct, because it actually looks like this treehouse can balance on something and it is well supported. But anyway, getting on, you can see that I'm just going around and furnishing the inside of this treehouse. I'm trying to make it feel as grungy, as kind of like a bit manky in a sense of there's loads of different spider webs, there's loads of different like cracks in the walls and rips in the walls. I was more so thinking that this treehouse isn't probably used like nowadays. I was thinking, you know, the teenager that's a little bit of a jock, I was thinking that this was probably their treehouse when they were growing up, but since then they gave it to the kid of his household, but the kid's into programming and hacking into the school grades. They're not bothered about going and sitting in a treehouse and playing Doll's House. So I feel like it's probably a little bit of a unused space, but there is still a treehouse if in your own gameplay you decide that you want to play with one. To be honest, I didn't add too much in there in terms of gameplay value and different types of things that your Sims can interact with. I did at one point debate placing down the little activity table, but then I decided against that, and then I also at one point thought about maybe placing down the science table, but then again I thought against that. I'm pretty sure I ended up placing down the science table in the kids' room because, you know, they're quite naughty. They're into programming. They're just into causing absolute chaos. I imagine that if we could go to like middle school or primary school with our kids in The Sims 4, I imagine that the kid of this household is consistently just going and seeing the principal or the headmaster, consistently getting into trouble, and they're just all round a naughty sim. They love to experiment. They love to just cause absolute chaos. And so I'm pretty sure I ended up placing down the science table into their bedroom. But in terms of the actual treehouse itself, it ended up being like a little TV area. I use a debug TV, which, if you're wondering where the TV is from, it's from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack in the debug menu. It's one that your Sims can basically find when they go dumpster diving. It fitted in perfectly because realistically, in a treehouse, you're not going to find like a flat screen plasma TV. Like, you're not going to find like a really high spec TV. It's going to be, if there is a TV in there, something that's quite old, quite run down, probably doesn't work, probably has one of them aerials coming off it, which I'm pretty sure the debug one does, but it ends up being like a little TV area. Also some beanbags as well. The beanbags are from the new expansion pack, and then also a doll's house in the corner, which is a fairly new doll's house to me in terms of I haven't really placed it down that much, but it's from the Little Campers kit, which is the most recent build and buy kit that we've currently got in the game, and it's basically just like a refurbished version of the base game treehouse, but it fitted in really nicely in there. But anyway, getting on, as you can see, I've now moved on into the inside of this house. Like always, I started off by finishing the hallway. The hallway space is quite skinny. It's got like 3 tiles wide, but it's like 7 tiles long, but it works for what your sim needs. You literally walk in through the front door, the staircase is like dead in front of you. You've also got like a little side table, it's got utility bills in it, it's just got general clutter for the house, and then you walk in through the rest of the house. I'd kind of placed the kitchen, which you now can see that I've moved on to. The kitchen is almost in a hallway area. But the floor plan for the house, I really like the way the floor plan came together. I did slightly change it when I came in and I started doing the wallpapering and flooring, just because I wanted there to be a little bit more of a separated utility room garage space rather than how I originally made it. But like always, I'll include an overhead screenshot of, you know, all the different levels of the floor, which, by the way, that reminds me, I've had a few comments that my last video, unfortunately, for some reason, the end screenshot of one of the levels of the high school for some reason deleted, and I'm not sure why that happened. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tweet some overhead screenshots of my previous high school build, just in case you're one of them people that want you to see kind of like the overall floor plan. I don't know why that happened, because I do that in every single video, but for some reason, I know I included it, I remember doing it, but for some reason I don't know what happened there. There must have been like a malfunction. I had a nightmare. Side subject. So I uploaded the high school. I had such a mare with that video. Not the video itself, not the filming, everything in terms of the actual making of the video was absolutely happy days. When it came to exporting, you lot are not actually going to believe it. So I exported it. It's an hour-long video, yeah? My last video, it was an hour and 3 minutes, something ridiculous like that. But when I exported it, I didn't realise that I didn't have enough space on my computer. I only exported 23 minutes of the video, and I went to go and upload it onto YouTube, and it got to the end point, and I realised that I only uploaded part of the video. I had a nightmare. So that's why the video ended up going out so late, because I normally like to upload on Fridays. Even though I don't specify what upload day I upload on, I normally upload on a Friday anyway, and so that's why the video ended up going out on Sunday night. I just kept running into so many different malfunctions with that video, with like exporting and my PC. The thing is as well, I haven't actually got anything on my PC apart from The Sims, so I don't even know how I managed to take up 2 whole terabytes of my PC just purely from... I'm thinking, now I'm looking back on it, I'm thinking it must just be like previous rendered files from previous videos that I've done that are probably just a folder within a folder within a folder, deep buried within my computer somewhere. And to be fair, bless it, my computer is 4 years old. I have never upgraded it. She's handling well. Often, by the way, people ask me what my PC specs are, like what computer I play The Sims on. I feel really bad because I can't tell you, because I ain't got a clue. I built this PC 4 years ago. I ain't got a clue about building a computer. I got a lot of help, and a lot of people just basically told me what was best for what I needed it to be, because originally I actually built this PC that your Sim like me film on, I built it to be a video editing computer, because that is what I did for uni, because I built it when I was at uni. Fun fact, I've got a first class degree in video editing, if anyone wondered, but I basically built it for film editing, and then I just ended up using it as my gaming PC. So I ain't got a clue in terms of the specs of it, but it's just a blank standard, like 4 years old PC. She's handled really well. Definitely need to go and have a clear out of it though, because I can't believe it only exported 23 minutes the first time round of my previous video. It was honestly such a mess. I had so much fun filming the video and just playing around with the new pack and just experiencing all the different build and buy stuff and like creating all these different classrooms and stuff. And it came to the end and the exporting, it was just, it was infuriating, to say the least. But yeah, I'm going to make sure at the end of this video, I'm going to triple check that all the screenshots are in their correct placement, everything is where it should be. And you know, I spend a lot of time on my screenshots. I try and take the nicest screenshots that I can possible for my videos, and when one of them doesn't transfer over, and it's kind of like a key screenshot as well, it's really annoying. But yeah, I'm going to make sure that I have them all in order. And also, if you're wondering, if you haven't seen my previous video, I ended up uploading the full hour-long thing, but originally it just exported 25 minutes. But anyway, getting back to what I'm talking about, because that was a complete side subject, but I did want to mention it just in case that you were one of them people that asked about it last week. But you would have seen I've already done the kitchen of his house, so I ended up placing down the Parenthood counters, some like base game, a fridge and oven. There's also a breakfast bar as well. There's also like a little whiteboard in the kitchen. Now, I was personally imagining that where this is a single parent household, they probably have a lot of help in terms of the general upkeep from their teenagers. So I was thinking that maybe one of the teenagers, more so like the cheerleader teenager, maybe they like cook the dinner for the household. Maybe they kind of taken over like a parenthood parent kind of figure for this household, because there is only one parent. And I imagine that the dad of this household has such a time consuming job, doesn't really get to spend time when he's not, when he's not at work, when he's not spending time with the family, to do the general upkeep of the house in terms of making sure the utility bills are paid on time, making sure the internet is the best that it could be in terms of the speed, and just general stuff like that you need in a house. I imagine that the father of this household doesn't really get much time to do that, and so maybe like the teenagers take it in turns. I've got this little whiteboard in the kitchen so everyone can kind of like write out their chores and whatnot. But you would have also seen that I've also done the dining room. Now, in terms of the furniture in the dining room, it is quite minimal, because it was quite a weird kind of like hickledy-pickledy shape that ended up being like a few side tables, like an armchair, obviously the table and the chairs in the middle. But the screenshots of that room are so pretty, because where this lot is built, it's built on a 30 by 30 like I mentioned, but it's kind of like built at the top of the world, or like the top of the neighbourhood. So your Sims are basically on a hill, and outside the windows, if they look out of them, they're basically just seeing everything below them. The screenshots of that room, but then I say that to be honest, the screenshots of the whole entire house are just so pretty, just because of the location of where this house is built. But in there just ended up just being quite a blank standard dining room, table, chairs, side tables, armchairs and whatever. You also would have just seen me quickly do the home office downstairs. Sitting there, I ended up using some of the new bookcases that we've got in the new expansion pack, and I kind of wrapped them around kind of like an L shape, kind of going like round the corner of the room. And there is also like a side table behind. It's also got this picture on the wall, which was kind of like an aeroplane or something. I did want to do something a little bit more sports related, but in terms of framed photos that we have in the game that are like more related to sports, we don't really have that many. We do have the basketball jerseys or like the football jerseys, which are also placed down into the home office, because like I said, I imagine the father of his household has something to do with either sports or television sports, or maybe they're into broadcasting, maybe they broadcast all their football games, or maybe they're just into something like that. And so I wanted their home office to kind of show that in a way. But in terms of the paintings, we don't, unless I'm missing something, we don't really have any framed photos of like footballs or soccer balls or anything like that. So I just placed down this one which kind of looks a bit like a military photo. It's kind of got like an aeroplane in there. It's pretty like just kind of like a blank standard office. It's got a desk area, it's got a computer, it's also got these little kind of like figurines that we've got from the new expansion pack, which I imagine was like kind of like the sports team. Maybe it's the Copperdale like football team or something, and it's kind of like their mascot is just placed down onto the table. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into their next room, which is the lounge room. So in here, I am so happy with the way this room turned out, because I got to use these new debug pillows that we've got from the new expansion pack in the debug menu. So one of the new things that your Sims can do in their bedrooms is they can have pillow fights. Again, I'm yet to play the game myself, and I've seen some pictures, I've seen some like snippets of videos of teenagers like having pillow fights, and I can't wait to do it in my own personal gameplay. But basically, in the debug menu, because your Sims will actively pick up this thing and they'll kind of like, they'll start having a pillow fight, you'll be able to find it in the debug. And so I found them, I placed them down, and I used the tool mod and I rotated them. I placed them and kind of like merged them into these sofas. Now these sofas have got to be one of my favourite sofas that we have in the game. I've said it so many times. They're just such a good, comfortable looking, homey sofa. Because the thing is, we have so many different sofas at this point in The Sims 4, and you would have seen at the start of the video, I did actually pull out the new sofas that we got from the expansion pack. They're 3 tiles long, and they're nice, but in terms of a homey, suburban family home, you really want it to feel like a really warm, welcoming lounge room. We don't have that many sofas in the game, I feel like anyway. That doesn't really translate that idea well in the room. So I normally go for like the same handful of sofas if I am trying to create that kind of homey feel. But I use these base game sofas, and I always say that I wish that we had like a 2-seater version of them, or if we had like some pillows that we could put onto them. Well, now with these debug pillows, you can technically do that. I actually use a mixture of 2 different pillows. So I use one pillow which is from the little campers kit. It's kind of got all these like pine trees on, and like little camper vans, and you know, like kind of like woody bits and bobs basically. It's decorated on these pillows. And then I also got these like blank, completely white basic pillows which are from the debug menu. I just rotated them and merged them in, and I made it look like there was pillows on this blank sofa, and I'm just so happy with the way it turned out. I also found this little, it's meant to be like an armchair, but it's basically just like a box, and it's got this blanket over it. Now I have seen this a few times on Twitter. I can't remember where it originally came from. If I can find who I originally saw the tweet from, like whose original idea it was, I'll put like a little name on the screen now. But you basically just take this armchair that we got from the little campers kit. It's basically like a crate, but it looks like it's got a blanket over it, and your Sims can sit on it like they would in the armchair, and it comes under the armchair category. But you can basically merge it into sofas and beds and other armchairs and make it look like a blanket has just kind of been left. So I was thinking that maybe your Sims they were watching a film, the fire was on, they were getting all cozy, they were underneath a blanket, maybe they wanted to go and make himself a drink, and then they just kind of get up, and then their blanket is just kind of like left in the placement that they kind of like just left it on the sofa. It's so realistic, and I love it. And like I said, this is not my original idea. I saw it on Twitter, so I'll try and find whose original idea it was and then credit them on the screen, because it's just so genius. But if you're wondering as well, by the way, with all the pillows, with like the decorative blanket and whatever, it all works 100%. I've playtested this house and it all works absolutely fine. I run into like a few minor problems here and there, like something might be a little bit too close to one thing, and then all you have to do is like budge it over. And then in terms of like the overall gameplay, the whole entire house, if you want to download it off the gallery, it all works, and the sofa is included in that. I'm so happy with it. I'm probably going to do this in some future upcoming builds as well, because it can completely transform a sofa as well. I am a bit gutted that the debug like pillows that your Sims will pillow fight with don't have other swatches, but then it probably doesn't make sense as well, because from what I've seen, the pillow fight interaction, you don't choose your pillow to fight with, you just kind of like pick it up and then you just start like bashing each other with a pillow. But yeah, I just thought it was a really good idea. But also in the lounge room, you would have seen that I basically like created this little tray on the table and tried to make it look like it had a load of different coffee books on it. Basically just found these books, which are just normal books that your Sims can pick up out of the bookcase. So by the way, if I was you, I wouldn't clean up the books. You know, the interaction where you can basically get your Sims to go around the house and pick up all the different books and then put them back into a bookcase. I recommend you don't do it unless you want the coffee book decoration to disappear. But basically, I found these debug books. Some of them are like stacked one upon another, and then some other ones I got the tool mod and I kind of like rotated them to make it look like they were leaning on the other ones, and then I merged this tray into the coffee table, and I'm so happy with the way it looks. It kind of looks a little bit like CC, because I've got something similar with custom content in my game, and I'm just so happy with that room. But also on the downstairs level, you would have seen that I did the garage. So in the garage, there ends up being one of the garage like mural things. So on the exterior, you would have seen I placed down the basketball hoop and then a sized up garage on the exterior. I sized it up and then I moved it into the floor, just because I wanted the garage on the outside to be a little bit bigger. Now the garage on the outside doesn't work because I sized it up and moved it into the floor. The basketball hoop does, which I was actually quite surprised about, because the basketball hoop I kind of like merged upon the garage, kind of like merged it in between the roof and the wall. I was kind of expecting to have to play around with that to get it to be functional, but surprisingly it actually worked fine. The only one thing your Sims can't do is, you know, the dream big interaction, because you can get your Sims to like practice dribbling, you can get your Sims to like throw the ball into the hoops, but there's this one interaction where basically off memory, I haven't done it in a while, but off memory you get your Sims to dream big, and then like all these like stadium lights appear around them to pretend that they're playing in the stadium. That's the only one interaction with a basketball hoop that doesn't work. But I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, I expected to have to play around with it and have to get it so your Sims could even just, put the ball through the hoop. But yeah, in terms of gameplay wise, absolutely functional. But on the inside of the garage, where I sized up the garage on the outside and it wasn't usable, I wanted to make sure that I included a usable object like that within the garage somewhere. So on the inside, I just placed down the same mural, but it's not sized up and it's not moved into the floor, so your Sims can, they can spray graffiti, they can, decorate the garage mural however they want to. But there is also like a little electricity box in there, which I 100% partly placed down because I can definitely picture the kid of this household just being just being so naughty and just going and just turning everyone's electricity off and just playing around with the house. And maybe when their friends come around, it's like a prank that they like to play on their siblings. Maybe they like to turn off the electricity and just kind of just mess about with the electricity of the house. But there is an electricity box down there. It doesn't work. It's just purely for decoration, but I like to have that gameplay idea in my head. There's also like some pipes, some like spider webs, cobwebs. There's also like a woodworking table. There's also the washing machine and the tumble dryer, and there's also just kind of like shelving units. They look like they've just got general stuff, like spare tyres, spare bits and bobs of the house, maybe spare garden supplies and stuff like that. I did decide to cut out both the hallway downstairs and upstairs. You can't see the upstairs because I haven't done it yet. You'll see it in the screenshots, but downstairs in the hallway, before you get into like the garage area, there's different like kind of like brooms in the wall, and there's different like shelving units where I imagine the fresh washed laundry has just been placed down into a washing basket and stuff. But then as well as that, you would have seen that I just decorated the first bedroom downstairs, which was kind of like the spare guest bedroom. Now 100%, if you wanted to download this house and you wanted to change it to be possibly like another teenager's bedroom, or if you wanted to make it into another bedroom for like another kid or something, you could 100% do so. I was more so imagining maybe it was like a spare guest bedroom for like Winterfest time or something like that, because I didn't really imagine this household to be living with grandparents, and so I was thinking that maybe their grandparents, when they do come to stay, they just kind of like stay in the guest bedroom. It's not like a very overly decorated room in terms of it's not decorated to a certain like personality or anything. It's quite a blank stand, just it's a guest room. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on to the upstairs portion of the house. I did one of the bathrooms. Now, like always, I only ever show you the furnishing of one. They're just too repetitive. They're just seeing the same bathroom repeated it gets a bit too much sometimes. But there is 5 in total in this house. There is 3 upstairs and there is also 2 downstairs. The one that you see me do, I was more so thinking that both of the teenagers share that one, because the parents' room, or like the single dad's room, they have an ensuite. There's also a smaller bathroom, which I just personally imagine that the child would use. And then in terms of like the big bathroom, I imagine that both the teenagers, which I was more so thinking could possibly be twins, maybe they share that room. I tried to decorate it with loads of different like makeup and hair dryers and just kind of just cosmetic stuff in there. But you would have also seen that I've already done one of the bedrooms for the children of this household, which was the kids' room. I'm so happy with the way that kids' room turned out. First of all, I'm in love with all the new beds that we got with this expansion pack. I think we've got 5 beds in terms of like shapes and styles, but in total we've got 10 because we've got them in single bed version as well as double bed. I use a single bed in the little kids' room, and I'm just so in love with all the different swatches as well. Like, I'm pretty sure there's some swatches that have like little hearts on. The one that I've used, I'm not sure if it was hearts that was on it, but it was kind of like this black and white and I think pink detail to the bed. It looks like it's got this kind of like metal bed frame, and then on the end of their bed I placed down this kind of little side table. It's got a TV on there. Now I did place down the video game station, which I don't know why I tried my luck with that one, because I placed it down and I was thinking I'll try and make it work. I don't know why I did that, because your Sims can't lay on their bed and play video games, and so I ended up replacing that when I came around to taking the screenshots, and I ended up placing down like a music station instead, like a radio station. But in there, as you would have seen, there's quite a big PC set up for a little kid. I mean, like I said, this kid is like a programmer. They're a hacker. They are often hacking into their school system and like hacking the grades, and maybe they're like changing the lunch menu and just silly stuff like that. And they're just consistently putting pranks. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next bedroom, which is one of the teenagers' bedrooms. So in here, this is the bedroom that I decorated to be for the jock. Now, and this is also the bedroom at which your Sims can climb out of the window, and they can kind of climb out onto the window, go onto that little platform, which it kind of like covers the downstairs porch, and then they can go down the ladder and kind of like sneak out. Now, the window which you can actually do this in isn't the 2 that you can see on screen now, because basically I didn't just want to place this one window in just that one placement where your Sims will be able to actively sneak out, because 1, it's not gonna look that great on the exterior, and 2, that's also going to be very obvious to the parent of this household that this window is placed there because it basically acts like a door. But it's the window that was kind of next to the bedside table. There's nothing blocking it. Your Sims can, they can open up the window, they plop out onto the little ledge bit. Now, I did use some light live edit fences kind of like wrapping around it, but where the live edit fences, your Sims will be able to just walk through it, there's no problems. So in that way it doesn't, because I feel like if I was to use a normal fence kind of on that upstairs portion, it would have to have a gap, because your Sims in the game, they can't walk through actual fences, but live edit fences they can. So I've got these little debug StrangerVille fences and kind of made it look like that was a fence, and then that way your Sims can, you know, they can plop out and they can run off to the thrift tea or boba shop or wherever they're going. Maybe they're going to a football game, maybe they're going to go to prom, maybe they're grounded, I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that I included that window and an area for your Sims from the upstairs portion to climb out of it and then go downstairs, because I feel like that is such a massive gameplay element that I'm going to be trying to implement into so many of my builds in the future, just because of this one window. But also in that room, as you would have seen, there ended up being like a little desk space. The bed has got like the school mascot on it. There's also a few different posters in the room that also have the school mascot on. There's also loads of different like football trophy like poster things, and I just tried to make it feel like an active Sim was in that room basically. There's also like a bookcase, like a computer desk and whatnot. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next teenager's bedroom, which I imagine to be kind of like a bit of a cheerleader. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of decorate the rooms on the personalities more so because I really wanted to use this one bed. So the bed that I placed into this room is kind of like how I determined what kind of personalities I wanted these Sims to be, because we kind of got this furniture set within this expansion pack, which is kind of like shabby chic, kind of vintagey. It is so beautiful, and I wanted to make as much use of it as I could possible in this room. So I used this double bed, which also comes in a single bed form, but then I also used kind of like a matching desk area over here. Now, I remember when I first got my hands on this pack and I was just kind of going through all the different build and buy stuff, I remember I actually gasped when I saw that desk, because I was so in love with it. I'm pretty sure I even sent a message to my Discord just talking about the desk, because it's just so pretty. There's kind of like a similar desk that I use in the other teenager's bedroom, but this one as well has this kind of like little chalkboard, kind of like a checklist, almost like a calendar kind of thing, merged into the desk, which is like already in the desk, so you don't have to actively put it there. And it's just, it is so pretty, and all the small little wooden details as well. I mean, you can just about see it on the bed over here, and also the shelving unit, which the shelving unit is also from this expansion pack. It's kind of from like the same set. I really wanted to use it, a bit gutted that I couldn't use it as like a bookshelf, because if it had like pre put in books, that would be so beautiful as a bookshelf. You probably would be able to do it if you place down loads of different books in it individually, but sometimes I feel like if you ever try and make like a bookcase yourself rather than using one in the game, it can look a little bit funny. So I decided to use it as kind of like a shelving unit for this teenager's shoes, and also kind of like a blanket area, and it's just, I'm so happy with this room. I also used the Paranormal Stuff pack wallpaper, by the way, if you're curious, because originally I was going to use just like a blank white plain wallpaper, but then I felt like that would have been a little bit too boring and it wouldn't have been as teenagery, if that makes any sense, if that's even a describing word, as what I wanted it to be. So I decided to use the Paranormal Stuff pack wallpaper. But in there as well, there's kind of like a little wardrobe area. There is also the computer desk, like I've been speaking about. There is also like a little mirror, and then tons of different like Polaroids in the walls, and it's just so nice, it's just so cute. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the last room, which is the single dad's room or the parents' room. So in here, I used the same bed that I used in one of the teenagers' bedrooms, but I just used it in this completely blank swatch, because I still wanted to use all these new objects. I still wanted to make as much use of them as possible. And this bed was kind of like the more neutral bed swatch of all the different swatches that we have in this bed. But in here, I'm not going to lie to you, I did struggle a little bit, because it was quite a big room and I really didn't know how to fill it out and make it feel homey and lived in. And where it was just such an higgledy-piggledy shape as well, I was having a bit of difficulty with this room, not going to lie. But I ended up placing down this little kind of like armchair area over here in the corner. I also placed down a chest of drawers on the other side of the wall, and then also the get-together wardrobe, and then also a mirror as well. So in this room, your Sim has got plenty of options if they want to change their clothes, but I just didn't know what else to fill it out with. I also placed down some like piles of clothes on the floor, make it feel a little bit more lived in, and then I'm just going to go around the exterior of the build, make some final changes to like the terrain paint, add a few like club gathering posters and signs and stuff, and that is basically it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My origin ID is JessicapieYT, or just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content, then please do subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys!